edition of the Hotseat on 933 KFM. I welcome you, our listeners across this beautiful land, the Pearl of Africa. My name is Kamara. Tonight, we discuss a subject that is also very important because it's about our nature, our environment, our survival in Uganda. Because there are so many people who have decimated Uganda's environment, decimated Uganda's forests, decimated Uganda's swamps. And as a people, we are facing an existential threat because we have put ourselves in a self-destructive mode. And this has to stop. But it's also stopping with pain because there are some people who have had developments in areas where they shouldn't be, but now government, through National Environment Management Authority, is making a move, which is a painful move, to remove people who have encroached on wetlands, who have settled in wetlands, who have destroyed the environment. Though the question is going to be, why did they leave them to stay this long, to construct permanent houses in wetlands in Kampala, very close to where they work? And so my guest this evening is the Executive Director, National Environment Management Authority, Dr. Akankwasah Barirega. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening, sir.
Thank you very much, my brother. A very good evening to our listeners.
I have seen bulldozers, earth movers, move within the areas of Wakiso and Kampala. You're making a move, removing people who have been settled in what you call swamps or wetlands. Why are you making this move now? Why didn't you make it yesterday? Where was NEMA when concrete blocks and the concrete jungle was rising on the swamps of Kampala?
Thank you very much for that question. I've been in this studio more than 3 times in the last 2 years. And every time I've been here, we've discussed matters environment. And all the time we've been here, we have discussed the issue of people living peacefully before enforcement starts. And so from 2021, we've been warning the people, we've been serving them with restoration orders, we've been preparing them to leave encroached areas because, as you have rightly put it, this is an existential threat for humanity if we do not act now. And so time came that enough was enough in warning and preparing people and explaining to them that, you see, we must conserve wetlands for our own good. We must conserve wetlands to save ourselves from floods, from pollution of our lakes and rivers, from flooding of our cities, from loss of biodiversity in these wetlands, from lost values for environmental services like sequestration of carbon, from loss of environmental values like local climate amelioration. So you can see that the values of these wetlands, if we lose them, it's an existential threat to all of us. So time came and we had to take a move to forcefully remove those who have encroached on wetlands. This is an act of law enforcement. So in criminal jurisprudence, there is no time limit when government can take a move to enforce the law, because there are very many factors that can impede enforcement and prevention of commission of crime, most important of which is capacity. NEMA cannot have capacity, or even the government of Uganda cannot have capacity to police every inch of soil of Uganda where environment exists, because environment is essentially everything around us. So government relies on the goodwill of the people, because government is a representative of the people. So government relies on the goodwill of the people to live in harmony with nature, to follow the laws of the land. And when this is not done, government has to come in to protect the common good, the wider public, by dealing with the isolated people who have chosen to break the laws of the land. So that's why...
What you are doing is backed up by law. What you are doing is also coming after you have warned the people. But really, I am wondering, especially in areas of Lubigi, which is a few kilometers from the headquarters of NEMA. I mean, how does a concrete jungle grow on a wetland under your watch? And then you're like, I will tell them to stop, I'll warn them, I'll use the law. Really, you had capacity then, like you have capacity now, to actually even stop them from going there in the first place.
That is true, and as you already may be aware, this is not the first enforcement operation in Rufiji. We've had more than 6 enforcement operations, way beyond even before I came to NEMA myself. NEMA has had several enforcements working with the Ministry of Water and Environment, Wetland Management Department. So it's been run-on battles. I can tell you in the last operation we had, which was last year, the people we removed last year were actually back. So this is not that you sit down and wait and then a house comes, not at all. It is a cat rat chase business. People do not entirely want to follow the law. You will chase them today. The moment you live like this, they come back to where you've chased them. So that has been the issue. And like I told you, because of matters of capacity, matters of limited resources, limited personnel and manpower, we can't police everywhere. So they encroach slowly. That's why they do not encroach in the middle. They encroach right from the dry land. So they keep backfilling at night sometimes, and then build over time. So some of these are very new encroachments, and others are a little bit old, 2 years, 3 years. So yes, it is true. So
Mr. Akankwasah, you are saying even as you speak right now, after your bulldozer and earth movers have moved away, and the military police, the tent city could be emerging in the swamp again, and before you know it, 2026 you'll be back to chase them.
Well, our hope is that the people of Uganda are people who understand. They are people who value nature. They are people who appreciate the importance of environment. And we believe that it's just a few errant people or rebellious people who are hell-bent to degrading environment. So we believe that people should be able to know that environment is for their own good and should not be waiting for NEMA to tell them that the environment is good. So
but wait a minute, NEMA, you shouldn't be working in isolation. Nobody will erect a permanent structure anywhere in Kampala without going through other relevant offices, the City Planning Authority, Kampala Capital City Authority, for you to be issued, first of all, a building plan, for you to be allowed to build there. So are you being let down by the other agencies of government, or they are non-existent?
No, even in this operation, we have KCA, we have UNRA, we have Ministry of Water and Environment, Wetland Management Department. So we have the office of the RCC and RDC, the city leadership. So we work together. Most of these buildings, if not all actually, they are illegal buildings. They are makeshift buildings. So there is no building with a plan. So these are illegal buildings which are in a wetland.
How does that happen? And what does it tell you of your other sister agencies of government that are so many? You have enumerated them, and you have so many buildings, permanent structures, mushrooming without a plan, and yet you have all these government agencies, with big offices, with a lot of power and respect, and things are happening literally under their nose.
I think it's an issue of capacity, enforcement capacity. I can tell you, if we looked at, for example, the agency responsible for wetlands management in Uganda, they do not have adequate resources. They do not have adequate capacity, so they are thin on ground. And so, literally, we are in a cat, mouse chase, because
you may not have capacity, Dr. Akankwasah, to maybe police River Dang, River Aswa, River Mpologoma, River Kagera. But Rubigi in Kampala?
You see,
how do you lack capacity to do that?
You may think that Rubiji is near, and therefore all the capacity they have should be in Rubiji. But the needs of Rubiji are the same needs of Kaperabyong, they are the same needs of Amudat, they are the same needs of Kanungu, they are the same needs of Budaka. So they cannot be in Rubiji, protecting Rubiji only at the expense of others. They are spread all over the country. I can tell you, in a day, I receive alerts of encroachment, more than 200 alerts. Now, I cannot have capacity to respond to all of them. Like now, I have to first, focus on Rubiji, finish it, and then go to elsewhere. Now, as I am in Rubiji, another person is encroaching in Karangara. Now, you will come and ask me, this person in Karangara, how did he encroach? Where were you? But I was in Rubiji. So it's not that because Rubiji is near, all the people will be placed in Rubiji. No. They will be addressing challenges of encroachment countrywide, and so the proximity is not a big factor.
So you have done this before, and they have come back.
Yes.
So how do you expect to keep doing the same thing and expect different results?
We have a different approach now.
How is it like
because
this time around?
We've learned from the past. Our idea now, if we remove you from here, we break the house. That's one. After breaking the house, we bring the bulldozer and clean up the place. After cleaning the place, we block the water channels because people drain wetlands through creating channels, and then the wetland dries. So we are going to block these channels. We are already blocking the channels
so they can regeneration.
We can recolonize the place. Where there is need for enrichment planting, we shall put there enrichment planting of papyrus to help, faster recovery. But we shall need also surveillance until there is
regeneration.
Recovery, yes. So we have a different approach this time.
So give me an experience of how it is like, especially when you go with your machines. And I've seen children and women and the elderly actually wiring. It must be, gut-wrenching to see people, if human beings, yes, they have committed an environmental offense, but with their belonging outside and elderly, weak, sometimes vulnerable communities, it paints a very bad picture of government, but particularly of NEMA.
No, we have a human face on enforcement. That's why I told you we started by warning people and issuing them restoration orders right from 2021. So this has been an ongoing process. We've been here on this radio. I've been here warning people several times. I have been here. So it is not that it is a surprise attack. And I can tell you, today we are in the 14th day of the operation. We've not had a single bullet coming out of any barrel of a gun. We've not had any confrontation. In fact, by the time we reach the marked houses, people have already removed their belongings. They've already removed, including their iron sheets, including doors and windows. So in fact, we've not had any run-ins or confrontation. By the time we reach a house, people have already removed their belongings. We've not had any occasion where a house has been broken with people inside it or with people's belongings being destroyed. We've not had any at all. We know that these are being affected by law, but they are still citizens of
But I've seen people in the morning hours with their mattresses and all their earthly belongings outside as your bulldozers are working on the houses.
I mean,
that was a very heartbreaking kind of image.
If the bulldozers had broken the house with the belongings, you wouldn't see the belongings. So already that confirms what I'm saying, that people have had the time to remove their belongings. Otherwise, if we broke a house with belongings in there, you wouldn't see the people with their belongings. So we've not had any destruction of property apart from the structures.
Dr. Akankwasah Barirega, Executive Director, National Environment Management Authority. We're going to take a break, and the hot seat will be right back.
KFM's Hot Seat. It's hot, it's live, provocative, and digs deep into the issues. It's KFM's Hot Seat. It covers all the relevant topics every weekday, 7 to 8 p.m.
Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the Hot Seat. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guest tonight is Dr. Akankwasah Barirega, Executive Director, National Environment Management Authority. They have been on an operation trying to restore the degraded environment by telling people to get out. And for those who have had warnings and they didn't go, they were forced to move by the police with the bulldozers raising down their houses. But in that very environment where you worked on yesterday and today, Dr. Barirega, complaints abound, especially about businesses that probably are bigger in size and maybe of men and women of substance, of power and fame. I've had a complaint about a petrol station, Starbucks, on the road to Nansana, on Hoima Road. And the people around there, including those who are evicted, are saying, look at them. They are not being touched. Why? Because they have money, because they are powerful, because they have Ugamba Nogu. So, I mean, how do you respond to some of the things?
Yeah, this is a common talk, which I think is diversionary in our view, because first of all, selective enforcement must be condemned, and we do not believe in selective enforcement. But at the same time, you can't demand for victim enforcement to balance the equation. That would be also a wrong approach. So before we do enforcement, we do due diligence, we do assessment, we do evaluation. We don't wake up and just start enforcing. We do, ground truthing. So the STABEX that people are talking about, STABEX obtained the NEMA certificate in 2017. That's a long time ago. 2017, they have a land title, they have a NEMA certificate. So
you're convinced where they are is not a wetland?
Well, it may have been part of wetland ecosystem then in 2017, but NEMA is a government agency. The local government is government. It was approved. They have a land title. They have an AIA certificate of 2017. So it was assessed and deemed appropriate to locate it there. If I broke it, I would be liable to compensate them. So it's different from an illegal establishment. If, for example, I found the STABEX there and it did not have a NEMA certificate, it did not have a land title, it did not have approval of Wachiso, Nansa, local government, I would raise it down, it would be number one. But I cannot put it down just to please people who want a balance of big and small. That would be blind enforcement.
But you're an environmentalist, and I can imagine the place we're talking about.
Yes.
It can be having a certificate, it can be having all the paperwork, but as an environmentalist, it may not be right.
No, previously, before the road expansion, certainly all that place used to be a wetland. But now it was converted by the road, and STABEX is one of those infrastructure that is on the road, just the roadside. So even if you remove the STABEX, you cannot restore the place because that's where the road passes.
But you see, nature will always claim what it is for it.
Well,
it can be 5 or 10 years from now, water can still find its way there.
That's true.
It can still be dangerous and can still cause damage because you can never stop water to pass where it ever passed.
That's true. That's why we have continuous repairs of roads, for example, in Ruera, for example, because water will always find its way. But that place where STABEX is located, that's where the tarmac road is actually. So we do not envisage any restoration there in any case. On the road, we can't restore a public road because the public road is meant to be like that. Yeah. So our records indicate STABEX got approval in 2017, and that's why it is not raised down. I know very many people have asked this question.
By the way, there was something that was very, very funny. The men in uniform themselves, whose job it is to help you in relocating or evicting people, they themselves have put a police post right in the middle of a wetland. And there you are, moving with the men in uniform who have also committed an environmental crime. And they were saying, look at them.
Rubiji police station was actually brought there because of high crime rate in the Nansan area. There was an outcry, and so police came and established a camp there, and eventually it has now become a police station, which we believe has no enough area for expansion because immediate behind it is a wetland. So we shall engage the leadership of Uganda Police Force to find an alternative location for the police station so that people can continue enjoying the security provided.
But you realize how the government agencies of Uganda sometimes, instead of working in unison, you seem to work in silos, even when at the end of the day you have the same purpose.
Not at all. Security deployment is as a result of insecurity assessment. So security risk assessment determines the nature of deployment. So if there is insecurity in a wetland, you are not going to say because it's a wetland, you are not going to locate security there. If there is insecurity in Semliki National Park, UPDF will go there and engage in security there. So if there is insecurity in Rubiji wetland ecosystem, you are not going to say this is preserved for conservation. You cannot conserve in any case when there is insecurity. So security deployment is as a result of insecurity assessment. So it's not a mistake. It's not working in silos. It was because of security need there.
How does Uganda's wetland atlas look like for 2024?
We have lost our wetland cover from 15.5% the last time we did assessment in 1995. We have reduced to 13% of our wetland cover, our land surface. Out of the 13%, 9.3 is intact wetland. This has appreciated from 8.9% in the last 2 years. So there is progress in recovery, but the recovery rate is still too small to be up about. There is massive pressure on wetlands, especially in urban areas and areas where there is a lot of rice growing, especially in eastern Uganda. The biggest region where there is massive pressure on wetlands is actually eastern Uganda because of rice, small-scale rice growing, and then urban areas because of urbanization.
So what is the plan? What is the plan for? In fact, now they've talked about rice. Every time I'm driving towards areas of Talija and Bugiri, you will see a lot of rice growing, and I'm always coming back with a bag of rice or two.
Yes.
But then, what is the way forward? It is highly populated areas, densely populated areas, and that is like the main livelihood. Rice growing in some areas.
Absolutely.
They're taking advantage because rice also grows so well, I'm told, in wetlands.
Yeah, sure.
So what? And they have been growing rice in wetlands for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, that's why the president came up with classification. The president made the pronouncement that there are 3 regions which were misled by colonial governments of the past into establishing livelihoods in wetlands. That was Chigezi, Busoga, and Bukedi. Chigezi mainly for Irish potatoes growing and what have you. Busoga mainly rice actually and sugar cane, and then Bukedi mainly rice. So government is coming up with a program to offer them alternative sources of livelihoods, and then they be persuaded to give up these wetlands, for example, by giving them alternative enterprises like fish farming, livestock farming, alternative crops, for example, apple and rice, if it can do well there, so that the wetlands are conserved as sources and granaries of water, which government can support them through irrigation to get the water and then irrigate their dry land so that their livelihoods continue unimpeded. So that's why we've not done evictions in places, so that it's not like a government imposed livelihood, but rather a transformed livelihood of these very communities.
One of the reasons why we are decimating our environment is because of the particular livelihoods we're engaging in. And to let people get off, you have to give them innovations, you have to give them technology, you have to lead the way. And for example, as simple things like firewood for cooking, unless you give Ugandans an alternative, today, majority of the people will have supper if they can have supper. I can assure you, Dr. Akankwasah, that supper will have been prepared either using charcoal or wood. Why? Because there's no innovative technology that is available to them. We are harnessing the environment like our forefathers did, and yet we're increasing in numerical strength.
That's very true. I mean, our population at independence was merely 8 million, just 8 million. And we are now past 45 million. We are waiting for the final tally of the census. But certainly, we are certain that we are above 45 because that's where we were. Now, from 8 to 45, the land size has remained the same size, meaning that this entire population is actually putting pressure on the environment. So that goes without saying. So what must the economy do to sustain the increasing human population without encroaching on wetlands? You need alternative sources of livelihoods, like you've said. Industrialization is one of them, by removing people from scattered, subsistence farming into commercial and consolidated farming, into working in industries, into working in the service industry. There is no country that I'm aware of in the world that has made it from agriculture alone. All these developed economies, if you go to France, for example, you will find most of the people are concentrated in urban areas and they leave the countryside for actually mechanized farming. So eventually that's where we must do. We must engage in services so that people are pushed to move from rural areas, from subsistence farming into organized farming, into service industry, into manufacturing industries. That way, you will have a higher population, but with alternative sources of livelihood. You will have a population that is not entirely relying on natural capital or direct use of environment for livelihoods. For example, you've talked about innovations. If the organic waste generated in Kamara was to be converted into briquettes, you would make enough charcoal to sustain Kamara. So you would not need to cut trees in Arua, you would not need to cut trees in Mbarara to supply charcoal to Kampala. The waste, the organic waste we have in Kampala, if we innovatively converted it into briquettes, we would have enough power. If we innovatively converted it into biogas, we would have enough power.
I've actually seen some people, make briquettes, and I'm wondering, I've seen different people, and I'm thinking, are they not using more energy? Because to produce energy, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, if you try to calculate how much they go through also to make a briquette, you may wonder it could be a waste in some way.
Not at all. You see, matter is neither created nor destroyed. It is only transformed. Matter can only be transformed. So the waste which you would dump and put in a landfill, you dry it and mold it into briquettes, which briquettes will give you slow release of energy that you will use for your kubobeza etoke or long lengthened cooking of bananas, as we call it. So they do not use more energy or more resources to create briquettes, because if they were doing it, wouldn't make economic sense.
I am told there has been a research done to show which alternative source of cooking is actually cheaper, and it has been discovered that charcoal is more expensive. Actually, I'm told the cheapest is electricity, gas, and then charcoal as the highest.
True.
But and that has been proven.
Yes.
But I'm wondering why that has not been inculcated in the people's minds to understand that the use of charcoal is actually more expensive than the other alternatives, and then government working with them, because I remember there was also a policy or a government program of giving people gas for cooking.
Yes.
And that could maybe have saved the environment. At the end of the day, change the mindset of the Ugandan person.
So the first issue is the mindset, as you have put it. The second is about the nature of our economy. We are still an agrarian economy. We have so many Ugandans who are not in a money economy. So they will not appreciate the unit cost in terms of what you need to get a unit of electricity for cooking vis-a-vis the energy and the time you will invest to get charcoal that will give you the same value. And some of them do not have the cash money, to buy that energy, to buy that gas, but they have energy, they have time, which they have not costed. So somebody will go to the bush, spend a whole day looking for firewood. So if you do economic comparison, they will have used the more energy and the more time and the more money therefore. But they are not in the money economy to be able to buy a unit of power. So it's the nature of our economy, which is largely agrarian, and that's why we must work so hard to bring everyone in the money economy. If you have money in your pocket, I can tell you will not like to use charcoal cooking because it is dirty cooking. and it has consequences for your, lung health. People who cook on charcoal, people who cook on firewood, just test your nose, get a white cloth and clean your nose. You will see that actually you are cooking yourself to death. So it's not by choice. I think it's because of affordability and also mindset.
The other day, I think it was 7th of June, when you launched the Environmental Protection Force. I've always thought this was around. And then when I saw the launch of this force, I'm like, but what is this? There has always been environmental police.
What we launched is not environment police. What we launched is Environment Protection Force, EPF. Now, Section 25 of National Environment Act 2019 created an in-house force, the enforcement arm of NEMA, just the way Uganda Wildlife Authority has a ranger force. So this is an in-house force that will be at the front line of enforcing environmental laws. So it was created in 2019 by Section 25 of National Environment Act. Before that, we've been using only Environment Protection Police Unit. But as you know, police is responsible for ensuring law and order in all sectors countrywide. So they are stretched in terms of numbers, they are stretched in terms of equipment, and so they cannot be everywhere. They need support. And so this force will be full-time in-house, and then it will be supported by police, Environment Protection Police Unit, and the army when need be. For example, when we have massive operations that require more personnel, we bring on board other sister forces, the UPDF and Uganda Police. So what we've been having is Environment Protection Police Unit, and it is still in existence. It is still in existence.
So these are going to be specifically trained for environment
protection,
or you're getting people who are serving the UPDF to be deployed? Because I've seen in some cases UPDF officers who are also working in environment protection, and yet we have the police protection unit of the environment.
So, like I said, these are in-house staff of NEMA. They have NEMA contracts of service. They are on NEMA payroll. They can be hired and fired by NEMA. Now, the difference between the army and the police is that these have a different command structure. Police is commanded by the IGP. So the Environment Protection Police Unit is a unit of Uganda Police Force under the overall command of the IGP. Same applies to UPDF. Now, this EPF, it will be commanded by NEMA. It will be commanded by NEMA. We have powers of hire and fire. If we find you are compromised, we deal with you. We release you or punish you, just like Uganda Wildlife Authority Ranger Force. So, if you are in Uganda Police Force, you are in Uganda People's Defense Forces, and you want to work in Environment Protection Force, there are two ways. You can resign and join the force through regular recruitment, like we have had some people come, join. You can also seek secondment so that your force releases you for, say, 5 years, and then you are entirely now under the command and control of NEMA. Then you go for training in environment law enforcement, because you are now specialized only in environment enforcement. Whereas police is not only on environmental enforcement. A police officer can be transferred from Environment Protection Police Unit to another unit of the police. They are not specialized.
Okay.
This will be specialized environment protection.
But you have always had issues of budget, because now I've had some people complain, not in your office, not necessarily you, about budget constraints. And here you are, the Environment Protection Force, and I'm wondering, where is the money going to come from?
Well, environment is not cheap, so we must make a choice whether we must live or not live. Environment is about living. I like the way you introduced the topic today. Existential threat. This is reality, by the way. It's not just public talk. Without properly managing our environment, we have no lives, we have no economy. One flash flood can wash away entire investment we've toiled for the last 30 years, and we go backwards 50 years. So we must invest in environment. We cannot continue talking about conservation minus investment. We have a talk that conservation without financing is conversation.
All right.
We can continue talking. So money
we have to walk the talk.
Yes.
All right. Dr. Akankwasah, Barirega, the Executive Director, NEMA. We're going to take a break. When we come back, my producer will open the line so that you who is listening, you can also have your say. We'll be right back.
KFM's Hot Seat. It's hot. It's live, provocative, and digs deep into the issues. It's KFM's Hot Seat. 933 KFM's Hot Seat. Hear the real story behind the story. Coming right at you. Only on 933 KFM.
Welcome back to 933 KFM. And this is the Hot Seat. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guest tonight is Dr. Akankwasah Barirega, Executive Director of NEMA. And we're talking about the operation that's been ongoing to evict people that had encroached on woodlands. We saw that in Rubigi Swamp today and yesterday here in Kampala. And like I promised, that this is the moment when you've got to have your say. Pick up your phone and call us and tell us what you think, what has been your experience, or which part of Uganda you are in where the environment has been degraded. How can we restore that environment? Because at the end of the day, it affects each one of us. I have already a caller online. You will tell us your name and where you are from, and please keep it very brief. Hello.
Okay, you're talking to a live in better. First of all, I want to thank the doctor who is insightful to ask the listeners. But my concern, first of all, I want to approach them that have come out, and indeed, all Ugandans, let's support NEMA so that we save our environment. However, this eviction, they should not come in abrupt. You have won. You know how you guys have the mind, which is not right, which needs to be rectified. You give an eviction letter that in such a time, make sure you leave the place. Some we take it for granted. But if you come to evict, at least come again and announce. So that people, because we have seen people crying on TV that became abruptly and people were not ready to vacate. Finally, NEMA got a policy to make that sure that every public car, even a taxi, should have a bucket where we put our, let me say, rubbish. But what happened to it? Thanks for the show.
Okay, thank you very much. I quoted there in SETA for a comment. Maybe I'm going to pick some number. Let me read for you the number. So I probably might continue the number. The numbers to call are 0751 933 900. Let me repeat that. 0751 933 900. We have another one, 0701 933 934. Tell us what you think about the environment. How have we destroyed it? What do we need to do to restore it? How has NEMA performed? I have another caller online. You tell us your name and where you're from, and please keep it very short.
Yes, Patrick. This is James from Wakiso. Hello?
So Wakiso, go right ahead, sir. We are hearing you loud and clear.
Yes, Patrick, I thank you for the good presentation and thank you for bringing for us that gentleman for environment. Now, my concern is one. Mr. Akankwasah, you are busy doing all this, all that, restoring the environment, which is a very good structure, yes. But now my concern is just here in Banda, here, where everybody walks and see what is happening. You can see where you pass Banda there, the bridge is fully blocked. Water has nowhere to pass. This is Banda where everybody is seeing that wetland is completely encroached. People sleep on top of the water building. That people are watching. When water is there, people have nowhere to step, have nowhere to do. The whole place is full of water. What are we thinking about this?
All right, thank you very much. Our caller there in Banda. I'm picking another caller online. You tell us your name and where you're from, and please also make it very brief. Hello.
Hello? Hello?
Yes. Name?
Kawaya Kibongo. I'm calling from Kawempe. No. Now, Dr. Barirega, a research has been done by National Housing Corporation such that out of the 4 divisions of Kampala, all the people in all the 5 divisions of Kampala can be housed in one of the divisions. Then the rest, we can do the environmental management, or we can do the environmental management ecosystem. So, have you seen that research? Do you approve it? Have you discussed with the president? I say that we can make our city into a modern city. I beg it's more.
What a fundamental issue arising and it could be so sweeping changes. We have another caller online. Tell us your name and where you're from and make it very brief. Hello.
Kamara. You're speaking to Armstrong of the room. My concern is that if it is all about regarding the environment, how come that it will even diminish the trees that we are in that different? Because exactly the opposite. And I wonder that if it's all about regarding the environment, how come that they will disturb the existing environment?
My brother, I'm sorry. I apologize. That line was not very good, so we could not understand what you're trying to say, and sorry about that. Let me just take another caller. Hello.
Yes, good evening, Patrick.
Good evening, and go right ahead with your question or comment and tell us your name.
Yes, this is someone and I'm calling for your query. Earlier on, the ED had submitted that, for example, it said that the cost, our life depends on the environment. Then he said these people on campus got a license in 2017. But right now, if you do our due diligence and you find out that actually so they got a license, but they were in the wetland, isn't there a way that those people could be relocated or at least that license rescinded? Because as you say, the cost that the environment imposes on us of life and death. So is it better for you to lose the whole nation just because you want to please an investor or vice versa? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Let me just pick one caller, just one more. Hello.
Yes. Thank you, ED, for this thing I'm speaking from Boyo Gerere. For me, mine is about environment concerning noise pollution. What is NEMA doing about it? You have an act. Now we have a problem with this Pentecostal churches putting churches even where there are small corridors in residential areas. What is your take on that one? There's a letter standing in your office.
Okay, I love the participation I had tonight. It looks like you're very passionate about this issue. In fact, somebody has ended with noise pollution. Maybe the other thing I would also maybe ask you is about the air pollution in Kampala. The particulate matter that we breathe in is really dirty and with a lot of dirty particles. Please take them on and be very. If you can just try to go through them quickly in the interest of time.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you very much all those who have asked questions. I will go straight to those that require a response. Others were thumbs up and thanking us. We appreciate all the feedback. Waste bins in cars, the requirement for waste bins in public passenger vehicles, buses and matatus is still on. And we are telling Ugandans, please have a waste bin in your bus, in your matatu, because it's a requirement. Don't wait for an operation like we are having in Rubiji, and then you say, NEMA, where have you been? Why don't people have waste bins? So the requirement is still on, and our enforcement will do spot checks as and when deemed necessary. So please carry the waste bin in your vehicle and ensure that you do not litter. What's the plan for Banda, Chinawataka, Bugorobi, Namuhongo? These are other areas which have encroachments, and we shall examine them. Our operations are not going to end in Rubiji. It will cover everywhere, depending on capabilities in terms of resources and manpower. All people to be housed in one division, This is wonderful research. I haven't read it personally, but I believe that it is the right thing to do. I wouldn't be surprised by the research because, like I said, in Europe, they concentrate everybody into settlements and then release land for either commercial agriculture, industrialization. So it's possible. We only need to create decent accommodation, have proper provision of services, water, electricity, transport system, and then we can release more land for development, not even for only environment, but also development, industrialization, and other areas. So this is a wonderful idea. I will look up the research so that I read the report, but I fully subscribe to the findings. Relocation of starbex in the wetland, why save investor the cost of environment? Before a certificate is issued, they do an environment and social impact analysis and assessment. So the fact that NEMA issued the certificate in 2017 means that they evaluated the environment and social impacts of the location and confirmed it to be safe. So there is nothing that is at stake. There is no cause for harm. There is no reason for relocation because it was assessed and found to be viable there. Noise pollution is a very, very big thing. The person who said there is a letter in my office, kindly log on to my Twitter and inbox the details of this letter. I will follow it up. We have a big problem of noise pollution. People take noise to be something of a luxury, but noise is very important. Actually, noise pollution, if you do not address it, you have far-reaching consequences on human health. In terms of heart diseases, in terms of stress, in terms of sleeping disorders, and which affects the quality of life and also the productivity of a person. So noise pollution is not just a luxury, it is something that has far-reaching human health impact. Air pollution is a big, big problem. Our air quality in some of the areas in Kamara is 5 times more unhealthy than the WHO recommended. We have just launched the air quality regulations and standards for Uganda, and we shall be giving you more information on how we are going to progress on improving our air quality.
Dr. Akankwasah Barirega, Executive Director NEMA, I want to thank you so much for having honored our invitation, also for the submissions you made. But for you who's been listening, I want to thank you also for the privilege of your company. And that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of the Hot Seat. And coming up is KFM News at the top of the hour with Catherine Agano.